Tonight, I go back home to Georgia to look into the death of a young wife.
That Atlanta wife murdered as she opened her very own front door. An all-new 2020 starts right now.
This is a true murder mystery. Emphasis on murder, emphasis on mystery.
I felt like Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
No obvious suspect.
Was she at all concerned about the fact that she was in an interracial marriage and that this was a difficult time in the South?
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff.
I want you to see the puzzle. When I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Your wife's best friend has been murdered, and police are looking at you. It's a chilly, drizzly winter Atlanta morning, and 35-year-old Lita McClinton is suddenly awakened.
It's around 8:15 in the morning, and she heard the doorbell ring. And she tightens up her rope and goes downstairs to open the door.
And I think she was probably not going to open it, but she looked through the keyhole and saw that the person had a box of flowers.
There was a man standing at the door, holding a long white box of long stem roses that had a big, thick pink ribbon around it.
So she receives the flowers, thinking that this is a delivery.
She was really excited. She thought that it was a gift from one of her friends.
In a sea of red brick townhouses, Lita's white one stands out. Her best friend Poppy and 3-year-old daughter have spent the night, and they are still in bed upstairs, just waking up.
Poppy hears her say, "Good morning," to the man at the door.
The flower delivery man produces a handgun. He fires a shot.
She actually put the box of roses in front of her face. The second shot went right through the center of her head, and she fell with a large thud.
Lita's friend Poppy was upstairs with her toddler, and right away she grabbed her daughter and hid her into a closet and said, "You gotta be quiet, quiet as a mouse." She didn't know if the gunman was gonna come for her. Lita's neighbor hears the shots, then sees the guy running like a bat out of hell, just booking it out of the complex, and he calls 911.
The first police officer, Lita's mother, called her husband. When they went to the hospital, they were put in a separate little waiting room. The doctor tended to Lita. He came out about 30 minutes later and said, "I'm sorry."
Because she's gone. We should have gone first, not her.
Atlanta's exclusive Buckhead neighborhood is known for its sprawling mansions, not murder. So when the shooting happened right here, neighbors were shocked and on edge.
Sullivan was found in the doorway of her townhouse, shot twice in the head.
It's pretty surprising that in this area, those kinds of things probably wouldn't happen.
How did you learn that Lita had been killed?
I ran to the TV because I heard Sullivan on Slayton Drive.
Police say a box of roses was found near her body. The gunman apparently posed as a delivery man.
And I said, "Oh my God, that's Lita."
Detectives on the scene found a bullet fragment, 2 shell casings, and the box of roses.
2 gunshots from a 9mm penetrated the box. The weapon was never found. To this day, it's never been found.
In this case, you had just a minor amount of evidence.
At the time, it was the top story on the news, and law enforcement officers felt a great deal of pressure in order to bring Lita's killer to justice.
For years, Lita's case was cold, buried underneath the weight of unanswered questions and fading memories.
I'm Deb Miller-Landau, and I just wrote a book called A Devil Went Down to Georgia about the murder of Lita McClinton Sullivan. I covered this story for Atlanta Magazine back in 2004, and the more people I talked to, the more that I researched, the more I felt like I began to know Lita. So talking about the day that she died feels personal.
The case was also personal to Clint Rucker, the prosecutor. When I came to Atlanta to meet up with him, I learned that one of his passions is puzzles, working from the outside in, which also translates to solving homicides. Where do you begin? How do you start to connect?
When I'm putting together a puzzle, not only in real life, but also a murder case, I make an assessment about what it is I'm working with. I start to identify pieces of the puzzle that are foundational.
Lita's murder case looks like a true crime story, but it goes a lot deeper. It's a story about love and loss and greed.
Lita had been reared in Atlanta's black elite.
You know, on the surface, she was living an Atlanta dream.
A prosperous upbringing.
A very prosperous upbringing. The expectations for her life were pretty high.
Black women have had to be exceptional in order to be seen. And that was the case then, and I think it's still the case now.
One thing seems certain, a murder of this kind is personal.
Was there a feeling that this had to be pretty calculated?
Police knew almost immediately Lita Sullivan was the intended victim.
Who would kill this woman? She wasn't robbed. Somebody came to the door with roses and shot her dead.
Atlanta had its fair share of crime, but this was most certainly one of the highest profile cases that got reported in the news.
Sullivan was shot twice in the head. A box of roses found next to her body.
Using a flower delivery man and shooting her, it was something that just kind of stuck out to me.
Atlanta, Georgia, billed as a vibrant melting pot, a destination for creatives. But if you grew up in Georgia in the 1970s, as I did, you know this was a very different place then. One still emerging from the dark shadows of segregation and racial tensions. What was 1970s Atlanta like when she was sort of coming along?
We've got African Americans that are kind of ascending into really prominent positions. Lita also is ascending because her parents are part of this movement.
Lita's parents, Emory and Joanne McClinton, were both power players, movers and shakers in Atlanta.
Emory McClinton was on the State Board of Transportation. Joanne McClinton was a member of the Georgia legislature.
Joanne will tell you stories about being in really interpersonal meetings with Dr. King.
She was the Maynard Jackson's campaign manager when he ran for mayor.
I think the McClintons had high expectations for who Lita would become. Lita Sullivan was a true daughter of Atlanta.
She was just a gem, very, very proper.
And she had grown up in a world of cotillions, so she really was sort of that classic upper crust black person growing up in Atlanta.
She knew where she was going.
She had a great sense of style.
And absolutely charming.
After high school, she went on to Spelman College. Her parents sort of hoped that she would enter the political arena like they were, but she was very much into fashion. She was working at a boutique at Lenox Square, and In walks this guy who had unruly curls and weird glasses and just immediately saw Lita and was taken with her.
Fresh out of college, 24-year-old Lita is smitten with James, Jim Sullivan. He's a bit older, 35, and he's also white.
He showered her with gifts. He just completely showered her with attention.
He comes in, he dazzles her. What did you learn about him?
I learned that what he saw was a fantasy in Lita. I think he looked at her as a young, very attractive, very smart African-American female.
Another big difference between them is class. Lita has been raised in Atlanta's high society and Jim on Boston's gritty South Side.
He grew up in a very middle to lower middle class environment.
He went to Holy Cross College, got a bachelor's degree in economics.
He always wanted more for himself. He always wanted to be a rich person, but it didn't seem like that was in the cards. He was an accountant. He was working hard, but he really wasn't getting ahead.
But life is about to change for Jim Sullivan when he inherits a thriving liquor distributorship from his uncle, worth millions of dollars.
Crown Beverages was worth around $3.2 million. Jim had become a wealthy man. So when the McClintons met Jim for the first time, they were like, who is this guy? He had this kind of manner that was very uncouth and brash, and they were sort of mystified about what their daughter saw in him. I mean, I think the only thing they had in common was that he was Catholic and they were Catholic as well. But everything else was complete polar opposites.
Another concern, of course, was race. Remember, this is the 70s. Even though the country is watching color barriers slipping away on the hit show The Jeffersons, with Primetime's first interracial couple.
Your parents have never gotten over the fact that I'm white.
That's because you never got over being white.
At that time, this was unusual.
Georgia's anti-miscegenation laws that forbade blacks and whites to marry had only been repealed 10 years earlier.
Still, despite their obvious differences, Jim Sullivan pops the question to Lita.
So the McClintons were like, you cannot marry this man.
They felt like Lita was really making a mistake and was kind of caught up in the exuberance of this relationship.
Despite her parents' strong objections, Lita and Jim are engaged. But on the eve of her wedding, Jim drops a bomb.
He tells Lita that he has been married before and that he has 4 children. Lita was shocked.
And then, the very same night, Jim Sullivan blindsides his bride-to-be again.
He whips out a piece of paper and he says, can you sign this? And then she looks down and sees that he's drawn up a prenuptial agreement. And she's like, what is this?
Apparently determined to protect his newfound wealth, Sullivan surprises Lita with a prenup, which says that in the event of a divorce, she would walk away with virtually nothing. She's reluctant, but the cake is ordered, the flowers are ready, so Lita signs the agreement and ties the knot anyway.
Lita got married in 1976. It was a small ceremony in Macon, Georgia. Joanne McClinton would later describe that as the worst day of her life.
The newlyweds settle some 80 miles south of Atlanta near Jim's business in Macon. It's a world away from Atlanta. But Lita agrees to give up her current job and her income and become full-time Mrs. Jim Sullivan.
They bought a house in Shirley Hills, a very affluent, very white part of Macon. Joanne and Emery McClinton feared for their daughter. Being part of an interracial couple in Macon, Georgia in the 1970s would have been extraordinarily challenging. The neighbors were like, you have the gall to bring a black wife to Shirley Hills. People threw garbage on their doorstep.
The out-and-out racism had to be tough for Lita. But she moves forward and makes some new connections and friends, including Yvette Miller.
When Lita and Yvette occasionally go out to eat, she notices something a bit curious.
We'd go out to lunch at a nice restaurant, and she couldn't pay the bill. And I would end up picking up the check.
And they were a wealthy couple.
They were very wealthy.
Then one Christmas season, a card arrives in the mail addressed to Jim. Lita opens it, and what she discovers will make her question everything. Lita and Jim Sullivan's first few months of marriage seemed to be going well.
They were both intelligent, both attractive, definitely upper class, high society.
But just beneath the surface, there's some obvious cracks.
They seemed to be loving at first.
At first?
He was not that nice to her, and he was not that kind to her.
Was he brusque? Was he brash?
He was a bit arrogant. Even though he had all of these resources, he did not, in my opinion, take care of his wife.
Friends say that the once generous millionaire has suddenly become a miser.
He was notoriously cheap.
He would wear his dead uncle's clothes around the house. He would use the sheath from the dry cleaning as saran wrap in the kitchen. He didn't want Lita to work, but he kept her on a very tight allowance where he gave her $150 a week.
Did she express any discontentment with her marriage?
When we were at those restaurants, Jim just does not give me enough money to take care of me and the house. You know, she clearly was not happy.
Was there talk of infidelity?
Lita had several instances where she questioned whether or not her husband was actually having an affair.
One day she finds a long blonde hair in their master bathroom, and she asks Jim about it, and he says, "I don't know what you're talking about." They got into this cycle of, she accused him of philandering. He would deny it, and then he would buy her sort of an expensive jewelry apology.
Then, during the holidays one year, Lita makes another stunning discovery.
A Christmas card came addressed to Jim. She opened it. A woman wrote in something like, "Missing your kisses." The woman's return address was on the envelope, so Lita went and spoke to her, and the woman said that she had been having an affair with Jim.
Lita is distraught and goes home to be with her parents in Atlanta. But her husband manages to lure her back, increasing her weekly allowance in a now post-nuptial agreement.
Now it's $300 instead of $150 a week, but it still shows that all of their assets belong to Jim.
That's right, the successful business, Lita's Mercedes, multiple properties, even her jewelry, still belong to her husband in the event of a divorce.
But in an attempt at reconciliation, Lita signs the postnup.
Just a few months after Lita signs that agreement, without Lita knowing, Sullivan decides to sell Crown Beverages for $5 million.
And that's not all. He tells her they're moving to Palm Beach, Florida.
Lita was in shock.
She had any clue that he was going to whistle her down to Palm Beach.
But Lita's new Florida home, located a stone's throw from what would become Mar-a-Lago, is more elaborate than she ever would have imagined. Called Casa Alita, it's a 17,000 square foot mansion with 8 oceanfront bedrooms.
It was just unbelievable.
When you went to Jim's home, you go through this tunnel and you would be at the beach. It's your own private beach.
But for Lita, everything that glitters isn't exactly gold.
James Sullivan very much wanted to integrate himself into the upper echelons of society, and his aspirations did not include Lita's participation.
It was not a welcoming place for a black woman to live. And when he found out that to sort of scale the level of social plateau he was looking at in Palm Beach, having a black wife was a serious impediment to that.
She was left out of some affairs, and she really became upset.
So even though they had money, this is a moneyed crowd, didn't really matter though.
He was barely rich compared to Palm Beach.
Did he want to be in that crowd?
Oh yes, he wanted to, be accepted as one of the rich and famous.
It doesn't take long before Jim starts to flirt with other women.
And it's at a cocktail party that one particularly elegant Palm Beach woman catches Sullivan's eye.
Jim sees Suki Rogers, who is a Korean-born socialite.
She was telegenic. She had a spicy personality. I think a man like Jim Sullivan could not help but be intrigued by this beautiful woman.
They started dating. He's still married to Lita.
By now, the Sullivans have been married nearly 10 years, but things are about to explode.
Lita finds women's lingerie in their master bed. It's the bra that broke the camel's back.
She said, I'm done. I'm packing up my stuff, and I'm going back home.
Lita arrives back in Atlanta. The very next day, she files for divorce from Jim.
But Sullivan fights Lita every step of the way, and the divorce drags on.
Did she seem concerned, worried, nervous about her breakup?
What I detected was she was excited, and she was cutting the cord and leaving Jim alone. She wanted her life back.
While Lita is looking forward to a new life of freedom, she can't be happy about the prospect of leaving her marriage with virtually nothing. No career, no Palm Beach mansion, no Buckhead townhouse, and $2,500 a month in alimony for 3 years. So Lita is going to divorce court, determined to fight for what she believes she deserves.
All she wanted was a reasonable financial settlement so that she could kind of go on with her life.
January 16th, 1987 was set up to be a pivotal day in the lives of Lita and Jim Sullivan.
A judge was going to decide whether or not to throw out the post-nuptial agreement.
She might get as much as close to $1 million in cash and assets.
The morning of January 16th, Lita Sullivan, she'd lose her life that day in a murder.
With Lita out of the picture, Jim Sullivan stands to gain the property that they had and retain control over all his money.
Sullivan was the main suspect.
That is, until a treasure trove of secret recordings of Lita's private conversations are uncovered, taking this investigation in a whole new direction. And police are looking at you.
You make a big circle and you put everybody in it that's close to Lita. Everybody's a suspect. But the first one would be the husband.
The first and obvious suspect was James Sullivan, who stood to gain everything from her death, all the property, all the monies, and who was contesting the divorce.
Detectives went down to speak to him in Palm Beach, and they put him through a polygraph.
Jim Sullivan not only passes the polygraph, but there's something else. He has an alibi that puts him nearly 700 miles away from the crime scene.
James Sullivan was actually in Palm Beach at the time of Lita's murder.
When you first look at it, it looks pretty cut and dry. When you interview all the people involved, everybody points in one direction, towards the husband. But when you sit down and look at the facts, I'm not so sure that the husband is the person that committed the crime.
Nothing surfaced in the early stages of the investigation that implicated Jim Sullivan in the murder.
Sullivan is cooperating with authorities, and during his interview with detectives, he mentions the name of his friend, Marvin Marable.
At the time of Lita's death, Marvin and James Sullivan had a very close relationship.
Remember, Marvin Marable is married to Lita's best friend, Poppy, who was in the Buckhead townhouse with her 3-year-old daughter the morning that Lita was murdered. But back before the shooting, the friendship hadn't always sat well with Marvin.
When Lita moved back to Atlanta, they started, hanging out together.
So she's disillusioned by her relationship. Did her failed relationship have any impact on your relationship?
Well, from the standpoint of them, being together all the time and going out, yeah.
Commiserating.
Oh, absolutely. Certainly didn't help. And I can understand her being there for her friend, but, sometimes you can go overboard, which is what happened in our relationship.
Marable, a former New York State trooper turned entrepreneur, says Lita would often spend hours at his home with Poppy. And it was during this time, he says, coincidentally or not, that his own marriage began to unravel.
I found a letter where Poppy was planning to file for divorce.
So she was planning to file for divorce without your knowledge?
Oh, yeah.
That had to be a shocker.
It was.
So then you decided to try something a little questionable after that.
I have a background in law enforcement. I don't see it as questionable. It's your own telephone in your own house. I put a recorder on the, people call it a tap, on the phone, and I started recording conversations.
In the house phone?
Mm-hmm. On the house phone.
He began listening to Poppy and Lita's conversations and ended up recording more than 300 hours.
In doing those very personal conversations between girlfriends, Marvin Marable learns that there may be some information that James Sullivan might be interested in learning that will be helpful for him in his divorce case.
He tells Sullivan about the tapes and what's on them, specifically Lita's post-divorce plans.
And soon enough, the two disgruntled husbands are conspiring to get the best of their soon-to-be ex-wives in divorce court.
Marvin Marable travels down to Palm Beach under a false name, and the two men listen to the tapes, and Marvin says, "I'm not going to record anymore," and Jim says, no, keep recording.
Was there talk of money?
Yeah, he offered $30,000.
Jim says to Marvin, if the judge decides to honor the postnuptial agreement, he's going to give Marvin $30,000 for the use of the information on the tapes.
What kinds of things did Lita talk about that could be helpful to either one of you?
There were some guys that, she would talk to, but she was legally separated.
But then, just a few days after Marvin and Jim's secret meeting at Casa Elita,
Poppy and Lita somehow discovered the recording device.
How did they react?
It wasn't nice. She filed for divorce the next day.
She was angry.
She was very angry.
Lita was upset too, so upset that she reported Marvin to the authorities, and he was charged with possession of an eavesdropping device. So when police questioned Sullivan about who might have a motive to murder his wife, he tells them to look no further than Marvin Marable.
And sure enough, only a few days after Lita's death, Marvin is being questioned by the Atlanta Police Department about Lita's murder.
I go down for the interview, and the first thing they did is read me my rights. And from there on, it was just a nightmare. I was a prime suspect.
You have a law enforcement background, so you knew what police
So
were.
I knew that I was being followed. I could pick the investigators, police, could pick them out all the time. Jim had mentioned my name to them. He said, look at Marvin Marable.
This was serious stuff.
Oh, yeah.
How worried were you?
I was very worried.
Joanne and Emery McClinton were beyond devastated. Their eldest daughter was dead. Just 3 days after Lita's murder, they held a funeral.
Days dissolve into months, and authorities are no closer to finding Lita Sullivan's murderer.
The case is just sort of growing colder and colder by the minute.
And while Marvin Maribel might have been angry at Lita for pressing those charges against him for eavesdropping, there was no evidence he was responsible for her death.
I know that people get wrongly accused, wrongly convicted, and so the only saving grace is the fact that I knew I was innocent.
By process of elimination is you can determine the pieces that don't fit.
And just eliminate them.
The way in which we eliminated Marvin Maribel as a suspect. There was just not enough to connect him directly to the crime itself.
As for that eavesdropping device charge, Marvin was put on probation, which he completed, and then he was exonerated. But on those recordings Maribel made, Lita had talked about other men, something that her soon-to-be ex-husband Sullivan pointed out to police.
He made allegations that she was participating in extramarital affairs, and that perhaps this was the action of, you know, a disgruntled boyfriend.
We have a lot of major players. At this point in the investigation, we have a lot of suspects.
One of the first men police question is a professional athlete.
Lita and him had been friends when she was in Palm Beach. The police quickly found out that he was in prison for drug possession.
That athlete is behind bars when Lita is killed, so clearly he can't be the trigger man. Then investigators turn their sights to a prominent Atlanta businessman.
And he and Lita had been childhood friends, and they sort of rekindled their friendship. And they realized that he had no motive, and they found nothing that connected him.
Authorities also take a hard look at another suitor who had taken Lita to dinner the night before her death, and get this, had also given her 2 roses.
The suspect was a man named Bob Daniel, and Bob had had an incident a couple months before the murder where, in a drunken rage, he came to Lita's house, smashed his car into the garage, and as the cops were taking him away, he said, "I'm gonna kill that." So, serious red flag.
But that lead didn't go anywhere either.
Bob had just had quadruple bypass surgery. You know, the police ultimately decided that Bob had nothing to do with it.
It's the unknowing that makes it so difficult. And to know that there are individuals who may be walking around now planning and plotting to do the same thing to somebody else is abhorrent to me.
I remember having the impression it was like a festering wound for them.
The McClintons want to draw attention to a $25,000 reward in the case.
The cause of finding justice for Lita became their obsession, became their passion.
The reward is for the arrest and conviction of those individuals responsible for our daughter's murder.
To catch Lita's killer, the Atlanta Police Department assigns 2 veteran detectives to the case.
If Lieutenant Walker bears a resemblance to actor Billy D. Williams, Welcome Harris reminds one of Columbo, the dogged, disheveled detective of television fame.
Building a murder case was like making a mosaic. You know, you get a shiny piece of glass here, a gem there. You put it together and you hope that from it emerges the shimmering image of a killer.
This particular case deals with what I consider to be high society. It contains a little bit of everything. Intrigue, mystery.
These days, a lot of murders are solved using DNA technology, ring camera technology. But back then, it was detective work.
She was shot with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun.
Most important thing found at the crime scene was the roses.
They canvassed all the area flower shops and quickly found that the roses had been purchased at the Botany Bay flower shop.
They interviewed the worker in there, and he told them that this guy came in about 8 o'clock and bought these roses and paid in cash and then left. And he was in a small car.
The florist gave a description of the man buying the flowers and another man who was waiting in the car.
So detectives know they're looking for at least 2 men.
Until yet another person is described to police. That flower delivery man who had looked Lita's neighbor right in the eye.
There was a next-door neighbor of Lita's, lived over on the right side of her condo. He lived there. His name was Bob Christensen.
He actually gave a description of the flower delivery man as a Caucasian, middle-aged man.
They went down to the police station and worked with a police artist and got sketches. As the sketches were being completed, the officers were realizing, obviously, that the shooter was not Jim Sullivan and that the other individuals were all 3 distinct individuals. They didn't look anything like each other, so therefore we knew 3 people were involved.
For investigators, this has all the earmarks of only one thing: murder for hire.
All the evidence pointed to a hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man, and firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
With investigators now exploring the possibility that Lita was murdered by a hired gunman, another critical piece of evidence comes to light: a mysterious phone call.
And what they found was that on the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call that was placed from a payphone right outside of Atlanta, Georgia.
Was this a call from the killer?
I don't know about you, I haven't had a collect call from a payphone, so as a cop you probably go, I wonder if that's connected.
And a tip from a woman 700 miles away may just be the big break investigators have been waiting for.
I said, anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
A hitman showing up at the front door, posing as a flower delivery man, firing a gunshot into Lita's head.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
You figure out what fits and what doesn't fit.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent.
The loss of a daughter.
They still don't have the murder weapon.
But they do have witnesses.
Do you know anybody can possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
Anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers.
You actually brought in a doorbell. Why?
To have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder. She's about to meet her maker.
It's a deadly delivery of a dozen pink roses. 35-year-old Lita McClinton Sullivan opens her front door and is suddenly gunned down.
On the year anniversary of Lita's death, there are no named suspects. They still don't have the murder weapon. They don't have a hitman. They don't have a paper trail that ties Jim or anyone else to a hit.
But that's about to change when they get Jim Sullivan's phone records.
On the same day that Lita was murdered, about an hour or so after the actual shooting, there was a collect phone call to James Sullivan's home in Palm Beach, Florida.
It turns out to be from a rest stop in Swanee, Georgia, maybe 30 or 40 miles from Buckhead. Using a phone call to call another state, that opens up federal jurisdiction. In this case, that's the FBI.
We believed the phone call from Swanee Rest Stop to his home in Palm Beach, Florida, was sufficient indication that a contract hitter may have called him after doing the job.
Enter Special Agent John Kingston, who takes a particular interest in that phone call and a whole slew of other calls Jim Sullivan made and received around the time of Lita's murder.
I got a whole year's worth, 6 months before the murder to 6 months after the murder.
Kingston notices a few calls, and one of them was to Bob Christensen, Lita's neighbor. When Kingston talks to Bob, he finds out that Jim had called Bob 3 days before the murder.
Sullivan said, had he seen anything suspicious around Lita's townhouse?
And Bob finds it strange. He hasn't talked to Jim in over a year.
Bob Christensen shares something else with Agent Kingston. On the same day Jim Sullivan called him, 3 days before the fatal flower delivery, Lita heard a loud knock on her door at 5 or 6 in the morning. It was so early and so unnerving, she didn't answer it.
So that made the call that he got from Jim even more suspicious.
Kingston also finds that a call is made between Jim's house and a Howard Johnson's motel in Atlanta, just a couple of miles from Lita's house. This is really strange. One thing that he's learned about Jim is that he's not a Hojo's kind of guy. So he goes to the Howard Johnsons and asks if he can look through the records.
They gave me the shoebox with all the registration cards, and I pick out 3 that I thought, well, these are awfully interesting. So I said, do you guys have the phone records? They said, yeah, sure we do. And I'm thinking, boy, these people keep really good records, and they keep them for a long time, and I'm really glad. They bring me the phone records for January 13th. I'm flipping through them, and all of a sudden I see 305 Palm Beach, South Florida area code. And I'm pretty sure it's Jim's number. And so I check my records real quick, and I go, yep, that's his number. And then I look, and I said, oh, look, it's from 518. That's one of the 3 cards I pulled out. Well, it just so happens I have a copy of it here. And one of the things that imparts is 3 individuals checked into the room. The individual who actually registered used the name Johnny Furr, but 3 individuals is important to me because I think 3 people involved in the crime. They put their car down as a Toyota 85 with a North Carolina plate. We believe that a Toyota was the getaway car for the murder. So there's 2 coincidences already.
But remember, these motel records are from January 13th. Lita was murdered 3 days later on the 16th. Special Agent Kingston is beginning to surmise that the killers may have tried and failed to get to her once before.
What I believe it to be is the killers having come down 3 days before the actual murder was committed, knocking on her door, her not answering it, and them having to stop and regroup and figure out what plan B is going to be. So I am in love with this registration card and becomes the focal point of my life for the next several months.
Kingston's next move is to locate this so-called Johnny Furr with the North Carolina license plate.
And to my surprise, there are 150 John or Johnny Furrs in North Carolina. But to my great surprise, 115 of these 150 are in a very small circle in North Carolina, between the 3 cities of Albemarle, Concord, and Kannapolis.
They're going to knock on every door and find this Johnny Furr. Of course, they're coming from Georgia, and anytime the FBI goes and investigates in another state, they need that state's approval. And just as they're about to get to the state border, their boss calls them and says, North Carolina's denying you entry, and they'll take it from here.
And that pretty much kills my case. that kills my case.
Yeah, soon after that, Agent Kingston is transferred to another job, and that whole investigation just sort of fades away. Meantime, in Palm Beach, Jim and Suki are living the high life. So with Lita out of the picture, Jim is free to marry Suki, which he does 8 months after Lita's murder.
He's thinking that he's the cat's meow. eating in restaurants in Palm Beach, going to parties, got another attractive woman on his arm.
Jim drives around town in a Rolls Royce and gets into a fender bender and has to go to traffic court. Jim says to the judge, well, you've misunderstood. I wasn't even driving that day. Suki was driving. So the judge says, we're gonna throw it out. However, the cop who was on the scene catches wind and he says Suki wasn't even in the car that day. It was Jim driving alone. So now Jim has perjured himself, as has Suki.
Jim ultimately got convicted of perjury, was given a year probation and a year of home confinement.
Suki Sullivan also receives a year of probation.
Suki's freaking out. When she gets charged with perjury on his behalf, she's like, I'm done with this. Suki files for divorce from Jim. And the trial that follows is the juiciest, craziest gossip in town. So when it's Suki's turn to testify, she drops a bomb.
Did he talk to you about his former wife, Lisa?
Yes.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lisa.
You can hear a pin drop. It's a big moment. After 33 months of marriage, Suki files for divorce from Jim.
Not surprisingly, it's another disputed divorce. But what might have been typical testimony about alimony takes a sudden turn in court.
Tell me what it was he said to you about Lisa.
He hired someone to better for her.
I'm sorry?
He hired someone to better for her.
She claimed that he confessed to her that he had Lita killed.
This became a bombshell in the investigation of the murder of Lita Sullivan.
Suki Sullivan's divorce testimony may be big news for the FBI, but it has zero impact on the divorce judgment, which favors her husband, Jim Sullivan, in nearly every way.
His divorce was complete, but his life with turmoil was just beginning.
The opulent ocean-facing Palm Beach Palace may look like something out of The Great Gatsby, but while we watched, a new chapter in a crime story was unfolding.
We develop information here at WSB. There's going to be a raid on Jim Sullivan's Palm Beach mansion, and that is the biggest break in the Lita Sullivan case since the murder itself.
Investigators from the FBI, Atlanta Police, and the Georgia Bureau of Investigation were on the grounds of a mansion identified as that of James Sullivan.
All of a sudden, Jim Sullivan is clearly in the crosshairs of federal authorities.
They got a tip that Jim, now a convicted felon, has guns in the house. Of course, you're not allowed to have guns if you're a convicted felon. So they put together a sweeping affidavit to get a search warrant.
We did see a number of guns loaded into a car and this box carried out.
When they found the guns, he was in violation of his probation, and so he went to jail for 9 months.
All this time, a federal grand jury has been convening in Atlanta.
They've got what they found in the mansion. They got what they found in the phone records. They've got Suki Sullivan. They've got the neighbors. What they don't have are the identities of the hit team. There's a problem, though.
We, the federal government, have a 5-year statute of limitations, which is going to be up on January 16th of '92.
With 5 or 6 days to go before it expired, the U.S. attorney made a bold decision. We're going to take our best shot with what we got right now, so they indict Jim Sullivan.
Jim Sullivan is indicted on multiple counts of arranging Lita's murder for hire through interstate phone calls.
Millionaire James V. Sullivan is on trial in connection with an alleged murder for hire plot. Here he arrives for the first day of trial testimony.
It was a trial that transfixed Atlanta. I mean, it was something we were covering on basically a daily basis, but we couldn't have it on camera because it's federal court.
It looks like the family is finally gonna have some accountability for the murder of their daughter, Lita.
The prosecution suggests the killers were calling Sullivan from the rest stop to say the job was done. The defense suggests otherwise.
Jim Sullivan is lawyered up with the best criminal defense lawyers that you can find anywhere in Atlanta and maybe in the whole country.
There is no evidence at this point in this case who placed that call or whether that call was placed by anyone connected with the crime.
The prosecutor spent 2 weeks telling their side of the story.
Suki, the woman he married months after Lita's death, delivered some of the most dramatic testimony the jury has heard.
They build what they feel like is a really strong case.
And then a big bombshell hits.
The judge says, I'm forced to dismiss this case for lack of evidence.
Judge Marvin Shube ruled that, in effect, even if Sullivan may have been involved in the murder for hire, the government fell short in proving the phone calls related to the murder.
Well, this is one of the most difficult decisions I had to make because I firmly believe in the jury system.
And then he looks at Jim and he says, you've been acquitted.
This was ultra shocking.
Suddenly it's over, and Jim is a free man.
I want everyone listening to this to know that I am absolutely innocent. I had nothing to do with Lita's death. Her death was a great tragedy, and I thank God and my attorneys that this ordeal is over.
The family at that point, I guess, is just sort of at a loss. How devastating was that for them?
They felt like the justice system had let them down.
I was not expecting this. It's extremely difficult.
The system today is weighed in the favor of the defense.
James Sullivan seems to have gotten away with murder.
But Lita's parents aren't giving up.
They file a wrongful death suit in Palm Beach, Florida, and they win.
We, the jury, return the following verdict.
The jury deems that Jim is guilty of wrongful death.
Total damages of the estate of Lita McClinton Sullivan, $4 million.
But Sullivan is able to hide his assets and not pay any of the civil judgment.
Jim Sullivan appealed their civil judgment, and he won by having the Florida court say that they had filed it after the Florida statute of limitations.
Once again, Jim has wiggled out of any responsibility, and the family is left dumbfounded.
Until
a call is received out of the blue.
A young woman comes forward. It proved to be the break in the case that everyone was looking for.
11 years have gone by since Lita Sullivan was gunned down on her doorstep when a tip comes in from a town 700 miles away.
A call is received out of the blue, and the individual calling is an attorney in Beaumont, Texas. He has a receptionist whose name is Belinda Trahan, who has told him a very unusual story about her boyfriend, Tony Harwood.
Belinda and Tony lived together in Albemarle, North Carolina. And he was a long-distance truck driver for North American Van Lines.
He basically drove a moving truck.
Belinda tells her boss about a time that Tony came home from a long-haul trucking trip and said that a rich white man in Florida offered to pay him to, quote, take care of his black wife in Georgia. At the time, Belinda didn't believe it. She thought he must be cheating on her.
Belinda thought that it was Tony just trying to get out of town and go down to Atlanta to the strip bars.
Until he took her to meet this rich white guy in a diner somewhere, and he got a wad full of money.
She says he sits down briefly in their booth and gives Tony Harwood the balance owed for the hit on the man's wife.
Belinda Trahan tells her boss that soon after this bizarre trip, she broke up with Tony Harwood and moved to Texas. But now, 11 years later, she says that he mysteriously reached out to her again, asking her to meet him at a nearby truck stop.
She's afraid that he may commit harm to her.
And it's this new tip from Belinda Trahan that sends Georgia authorities to the Lone Star State, turning up the heat on an otherwise cold case.
Georgia Bureau of Investigator Agent John Lang takes a detective from the Atlanta Police Department and goes down to Texas to talk to Belinda.
She was with Tony when they met this mysterious man at this diner that they were meeting at. We wanted to show her a lineup of pictures in hopes that she could pick Sullivan out of it.
And she takes her pink fingernail and taps right on Jim Sullivan's face and says, "This is the man."
My plan of attack was to get some recordings with her and Tony. So we got her to get in touch with Tony again.
She's talking to him and trying to coax information out of him, knowing John Lang is listening on her end. And Tony gives enough information that places him at the scene at the time.
We had the phone calls with Tony. She picked Jim Sullivan out of the lineup, but there was still more investigation to do. We really didn't know who Tony Harwood was.
John Lang knows that Tony worked at North American Van Lines. So he calls up North American Van Lines and he says, "Hey, you don't happen to have your records from 11 years ago?" And the guy says, "Yeah, there's some boxes full of files up in a musty attic. You're more than welcome to go poke around."
We went up into a hot attic and opened the first box that I went through. And about the third document I looked at was Jim Sullivan. His address was on it, Palm Beach, Florida. His signature was on it, and Tony Harwood's signature was on it.
He finds a bill of lading showing that Tony Harwood moved furniture for Jim Sullivan 2 months before the murder. And it's the paper trail he needs. It's like the jackpot.
Astounding. I don't know any other way to explain it. I mean, open this box and like the third record I look at, here it is. I mean, it just like it was meant to be.
On a Sunday morning in April of 1998, John Lang and local authorities go knock on Tony's door in Albemarle, North Carolina. Tony answers the door.
And he said, "You know, I've been waiting on you boys for a long time."
They take Tony to the Albemarle police station. Lang interviews Tony for 3 hours in this tiny room. But at the end of the day, Tony admits to taking money from Jim, $25,000, to take care of Lita. He also tells the detectives that he wasn't the one to pull the trigger, but that he was there the day of the murder.
He went through the whole case, and throughout the interview, he incriminated himself even more. I mean, admitted that he was there. He knew what happened. So he was arrested for murder of Lita Sullivan, and we took him back to Atlanta that day.
After Tony's arrest, things moved pretty quickly.
We are here today to announce the issuance of a warrant for the arrest of James V. Sullivan.
They got enough to get Sullivan, and now boom. Sullivan hears of this and blows. He takes off.
We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
He's just gone, vanished.
Investigators say he could be anywhere.
He is nowhere to be found.
We certainly do not know where Mr. Sullivan is. We have reason to believe that he's outside the country.
More than a decade after his wife Lita was murdered, Jim Sullivan seems to be playing a game of catch me if you can with authorities.
There is an international manhunt for James Sullivan.
Well, Jim had moved to Costa Rica, actually bought
a home there. In 1998, after an arrest warrant was issued for him, he immediately, like that night, went to Panama.
If you have any information concerning James Sullivan, you should contact the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate.
We didn't know exactly where he had flown from Panama, and we didn't know exactly where he had gone.
His trail goes cold.
They put him on Interpol, and it was just cold.
They've tapped phone lines, anybody that he might have called, and he's called no one, not even his mother.
There was a few tips that came in. The tips are just dead ends.
The McClintons, they're dumbfounded that this guy could, get away again.
But in late 1999, with Sullivan still completely off the grid, the heartbroken Emery and Joanne McClinton do get some good news.
Last week came this, a court decision reinstating a $4 million judgment against Jim Sullivan in connection with a wrongful death case brought in effect by Lida's estate.
Lida's family and law enforcement officials hope that a renewed hunt for Sullivan's money will help smoke him out.
Where you find Sullivan's money, you're going to find him close by.
But even this goes nowhere.
Fast forward to 2002. There is no sign of Jim Sullivan.
We tried every effort in our arsenal to try and locate him, to put him on the FBI's wanted list, but to also put him on the top 10 list, which is very unusual. You don't get on the top 10 list very easily. Then we also featured him on America's Most Wanted.
The most recent picture we have of Sullivan is at least 5 years old, so the FBI age-enhanced this photo, which may bear a closer resemblance to Sullivan's appearance today. If you recognize James Sullivan from either of these photographs, call us now at 1-800-CRIME-TV.
A man sees America's Most Wanted on television and goes, I know that guy. He lives in my condo complex in Chiang, Thailand. And sure enough, he calls the authorities.
He went to Panama, to Venezuela, and eventually to Thailand, where he got a beachfront condo.
He spends his days walking on the beach, sitting by the pool, occasionally playing tennis, as though no other troubles in the world. The Thai police knock on Jim Sullivan's door on July 2nd, 2002, and say, you're under arrest. The McClintons can hardly believe it.
We found out from the FBI, and that was a moment of jubilation.
15 years is a long time to concentrate on the loss of a daughter. And we had determination, and we had the will, but we also had all of these individuals behind us.
Almost as soon as Jim Sullivan is arrested for murder, Tony Harwood, who has continued to deny being the trigger man, agrees to a plea deal.
Tony kind of sees the writing on the wall.
Harwood just decided that he would plead guilty, a negotiated plea for manslaughter, and that, in turn, that he would testify against Jim Sullivan.
It took 2 years, but he finally was extradited back to Atlanta in 2004.
He got off the plane. He was wearing a single shoe because he had such terrible gout in his foot. But he gets off and gets taken to Fulton County Jail. And there's this sort of cumulative sigh of relief.
To be clear, Sullivan being tried for murder in Georgia is not double jeopardy. For one thing, it is a state case, and the previous one was a federal case, and that specifically was for arranging Lida's murder for hire over the phone.
The elected district attorney appoints me, along with a couple of other lawyers, to prosecute the case.
This was a huge puzzle of a case.
Right.
How did your puzzle-solving skills come into play?
There's no cutting corners, and you spread the pieces out, and then you figure out what fits and what doesn't fit. And that's kind of what the prosecution of James Sullivan was like. It was putting together all these different pieces so that we could make sure that the prosecution of the case was done accurately and with integrity.
What concerned you going into this trial?
He was rich. He was a white male. He had escaped the federal authorities before, and he had two of the best criminal defense attorneys representing him.
They are sharp, and if they can find a way out, they're going to find a way out.
There will not be one shred of physical evidence that links Jim Sullivan to this crime.
Jim has eluded justice so many times that there's a real palpable fear that he's going to get away with it, that he's going to elude justice again.
After nearly 20 years, Jim Sullivan is finally on trial here in Fulton County for the murder of his wife, Lida. For her heartbroken parents, this day couldn't come soon enough.
The pain, believe it or not, it increases. It does not decrease. The shock decreases. The depression decreases. But the pain continues.
It was an A-team of prosecutors, great courtroom performers.
Clint Rucker was the lead prosecutor, and Anna Grain, Kelly Hill, Sheila Ross.
And the evidence will show that the person who sent that hitman to Lida's door is the only person in the world who could have profited from her death. It is the only person in the world who met Tony Harwood and paid him off for killing her, and is the only person in the world who fled halfway around the world to avoid facing you.
Jury was 9 women and 3 men.
The jury is also racially mixed.
Jim Sullivan had Ed Garland and Don Samuel. Again, the people who won that big courtroom victory against the feds.
What the state relies on is 2 types of evidence. Circumstantial evidence, and then the testimony of con men.
The state initially started out the nature of the crime and what happened that morning.
I heard 2 sounds. They sounded to me like steel hitting steel.
I just didn't want to believe that it was a gun. And so I hesitated for a second, and then I really knew that it was a gun.
She was able to squeeze my hand each time I spoke with her, like she understood what I was saying. And for many, many years after this, I thought that's all it was. And then one day I realized that she was comforting me more than I was comforting her. That was the sort of lady I felt she was.
They had the phone calls that the FBI had found.
There was a call from this room to Mr. Sullivan's home at 7:44 in the morning.
But all this testimony notwithstanding, it's Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood who everybody wants to hear from.
Belinda Trahan was the most important witness in the case.
He told me that some white guy who wanted to take out his black wife. I didn't believe it.
Why not?
I've been with him for 3 years, over 3 years. I mean, I figured he met someone because we were on the outs.
Most chilling about Belinda's testimony is that she confirms that there was at least one failed attempt on Lida's life.
She testifies that when Tony had gone to Lida's house on January 13th, then she didn't come to the door. They drove back to North Carolina and told Belinda that, it didn't work.
But Belinda testifies that hearing that from her boyfriend left her incredulous.
I said, just don't even lie to me. I said, because anyone knows that if you wanted to get a woman to answer the door, all you would have to do is take flowers to the door.
Did you in any way mean for that to be a suggestion as to how to get
the job accomplished?
No, not at all.
Here's Belinda Trahan, and she is falling on the sword about what she did.
She suggested the flowers.
She suggested the flowers, and she admitted that on the stand.
You brought in the diner booth where they sat. Why couldn't you just tell the jury and show pictures?
I want you to see the puzzle once it's all put together. Yeah, I can show you the box. I can show you a photograph of it. But when I put it together and I show it to you, you'll never forget it.
Push the paper across the table like this, and then Tony put his hand on it and took it from there.
And there was a particular moment when she is asked to stand up in court and identify the person she witnessed give Tony Harwood an envelope full of money.
Please, point him out.
It's right there. He can't even make eye contact.
Your Honor, may the record reflect the witness has identified the defendant, James Sullivan.
But if prosecutors feel like Belinda Trahan's testimony is helping their case, they have to know that it's just as big a risk to put Tony Harwood on the stand.
Can you show the jurors the body language Mr. Sullivan used and the tone of voice, if it's possible, that he used when he was explaining to you that his wife, Lita, was a problem?
You know, I've got this wife of mine up in Atlanta, and she is just trying to take everything I've got. And I don't know what to do about it. I need someone to take care of my problem. Do you know anybody that can possibly take care of my problem for me? Because I need some help here.
We could prove Tony Harwood and James Sullivan actually met each other. So I spent the first part of Tony Harwood's examination confirming his signature on the hotel receipt.
And the signature, Johnny Kerr.
The fact that he actually went to the flower shop.
Who actually went inside the flower shop to purchase the flowers?
I did.
They had Tony Harwood saying that he was the one who made the collect call to Jim Sullivan's house.
What did you say to him?
I said, Merry Christmas. And he said, I understand. And that was it.
What were you trying to convey to Mr. Sullivan by giving him that signal, those code words?
That his problem was taken care of.
The defense had their chance to cross-examine Harwood. Not a single question. The two key witnesses were, of course, Belinda Trahan and Tony Harwood. And so, in closing arguments, the defense assailed their credibility.
You should reject everything that came out of his mouth. Harwood says envelope in the bathroom. She says an envelope at this booth over here.
Garland presents to the jury a letter-sized envelope stuffed with bills. Harwood had said it was all cash in $20 bills.
See, oops, some of it fell out, and some more. It won't fit in an envelope. The whole story just doesn't make sense.
In your closing arguments, you actually brought in a doorbell. Why? What was the point?
I wanted the jurors to have that sense of what Lita Sullivan experienced right before her murder.
An ordinary moment.
In an ordinary moment. The second reason why I did it is because James Sullivan liked to read books. And one of his favorite authors wrote a book called For Whom the Bell Tolls.
I'm going to ask you through your verdict of guilty to each and every count to tell James Vincent Sullivan for whom the bell tolls. Tell him that it tolls for thee. For you. For you.
And then I rang the doorbell 3 times.
As the jury goes out to deliberate, I think there's a real fear. Are they going to do it this time, or is it going to be like every other time?
I do not see this as a slam dunk for the state.
There's this anxiety. You're worried, but you're hopeful. I don't care who you talk to that does this kind of work as a litigator. They will tell you, oh, I can look at the jurors and I probably can tell you what they're gonna do. No, you don't. You don't.
This is breaking news.
We do have breaking news at this hour. The jury having reached a verdict in the trial of Jim Sullivan.
The jury came back within a few hours on the same day.
It was so silent, and the tension was just palpable.
There's this anxiety. You don't know what it's gonna be. You don't know how it's gonna turn out. And you're worried, but you're hopeful.
It's hard not to think of Lida's family, her parents especially, after so many fits and starts to win justice for their firstborn child. It comes down to this moment.
The judge says,
"Ma'am, would you publish the verdict?"
And then from that moment until they get finished, nobody is breathing.
Count 1, malice murder. We, the jury, find the defendant, James Vincent Sullivan, guilty of malice murder.
I got a chance to hug Emory McClinton. I had never been hugged so tight before. This was his baby. And we had finally, after 19 years, brought that man a sense of satisfaction. I'll never forget it. The conviction of James Sullivan was the biggest puzzle that I had solved in my career. And it is one that gave me the most satisfaction that I had ever experienced as a prosecutor.
The court hears victim impact statements. What a loss it was to have Lida gone from their lives.
I dream of Lita often. She is smiling and walking in my direction, and I in hers. But we never reach each other.
The jury came back and gave him life in prison without the possibility of parole.
I am so very pleased, and I'm happy. What we were waiting for was something in our judicial system, something to happen and to bring it all together, and that's what you see today.
Why did it take 20 years, do you think?
It goes back to the resources.
He had privilege?
White privilege, completely. He knew how to manipulate people, and he had the resources to do that.
You've got a black victim, you've got a white defendant. Did race hover in this courtroom over this case at all?
I think in our criminal justice system, unfortunately, race always permeates throughout a case. But I'm thankful to say the evidence in the case overcame that racial component.
They never received any money. Is there money? Where is this money?
He's been able to secret his money. For the McClintons, seeing him rot in a prison in South Georgia brings them a whole lot more satisfaction.
This is a woman who you never met, I've never met, most of the people involved in this case never met her, and yet her life really made an impact. When somebody dies in this kind of manner, they don't stop being a member of the family, they don't stop being a member of the community, they never stop mattering.
David, Tony Harwood was released from prison in 2018 after serving his 20-year sentence. Jim Sullivan remains behind bars with no possibility of parole.
As for the other two men who were seen at that flower shop, no one else was ever charged. That is our program for tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm David Muir.
And I'm Deborah Roberts. From all of us here at 2020 and ABC News, good night.
The world, as Flash Freddy saw it, was an oyster, and Freddy with his sharp suit, gold-plated keyring, and an ego that could rival a skyscraper, was convinced he held the pearl-shucking knife. He operated from a modest, if somewhat precarious, flat in Nelson Mandela House, a towering monument to concrete modernity in Grafton Greens. His younger brother, Percy Pimple, a studious lad perpetually torn between legitimate ambition and fraternal loyalty, usually bore the brunt of Freddy's grand schemes. And then there was Grandad, George, a retired naval man whose main contributions were endless war stories, dubious culinary efforts, and a penchant for complaining. Stick a $5 in me pocket, Percy. I'll fetch the suitcase from the van. Freddy boomed one blustery Monday morning, surveying his latest acquisition. With a salesman's gleam. 'Cause if you are the bestest, but you don't ask questions, then brother, I'm your man. Percy, still trying to coax life into a stubborn slice of toast, sighed. What fresh hell have you dragged in now, Freddy? Freddy gestured dramatically towards a stack of gleaning boxes. Fresh hell? This, my boy, is salvation, technological marvels, top of the range. Chronoscopes. Grandad George, nursing a mug of tea the color of pond water, peered over his spectacles. Chronos, what now? Looks like a glorified toaster to me. It's a videotape recorder, Grandad, Percy interjected, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Freddy, where did you get 50 of these? And why do they all have so many blinking lights? Lights, my dear Percy, signify sophistication, prestige. You can see that by all them lights, Freddy announced, as if lights were the sole metric of quality. Don't know how we've managed so long without one, George? Nor do I, George mumbled, more interested in whether his tea would successfully remove the enamel from his teeth. What is it? It's a chronoscope, Grandad, Percy repeated. Freddy says they record your programs when you're on holiday. Amazing, George exclaimed, momentarily forgetting his tea. How does it know? You're on holiday? Freddy puffed out his chest. You send it a postcard, don't you? You daft old. Oh, come on. What's the matter with you? He slapped Percy on the back. No. Look, it's all right, lad. You'll get the hang of it, normally, when it comes to technological things. You're a natural. Just gotta get used to all its functions and modes. Percy, still rubbing his back, gave him a withering look. I thought the bloke you bought it from said an idiot could work it. Yes, that's right. Yes. Freddy snapped his fingers. Rodney, shake a leg. It's gone 6 o'clock. The morning chaos escalated. Percy, still grappling with the enigma of the chronoscope, had been out the previous night with Seraphina Sterling, his Girlfriend. Freddy had been quick to comment on his state. Good Lord, look at the state of that, Freddy exclaimed, surveying Percy's disheveled appearance. I've seen blokes pull out of potholes looking smarter. Than that, you brought him back last night. Son, out with that little bird of yours. What's her name? Serafina. That's right. Serafina and I went to a concert at the Royal Albert Hall, Percy said, attempting to regain some dignity. The Albert Hall, takes me back. Grandad George chimed in. Used to go up there whenever I was on home leave. Saw some of the best there, Percy, ever. Heard of John, Barbara, Ollie. Percy nodded. Sir John was one of the greats. Barbara and Ollie were pretty. Good, weren't they? Saw them all. Adrian Bolt, Sir Malcolm Sargent. Wonderful times, George. Reminisced, lost in his memories. Freddy, however, was clearly unimpressed. Who'd you see? Percy. Eric Clapton. Freddy scratched his chin. Eric Clapton. He's a new one on me. Yeah, his. Attention quickly returned to his chronoscopes. The old boy's got a new video. Recorder. Oh, yeah. There was a very interesting article in the paper the other day. Did you know that Tipton is the only country in the world that don't have any rubbish dumps? They just send it all to him. Oi, oi, oi. That's enough of that. Grandad George interjected, his indignation flaring. This is none of your Tipton junk. This was made in Formosa. Freddy paused, confused. But Formosa is Albert. Please, don't confuse the issue. Is what? Percy asked. He's one of the world's leading manufacturers of audio-visual equipment and video recorders, Freddy declared, beaming. The conversation eventually shifted to breakfast, which Percy, despite his late night, devoured. Freddy, ever the image consultant, launched into a lecture. You know where I was last night whilst you was up at the Albert Hall? Head banging and all that? I was having a drink with the managing director of the Advanced Electronics Research and Development Center. Percy snorted. Didn't that used to be Ron's Cash and Carry? Yeah, that's right. But he changed the name. No, that bloke has come on a bundle in the last few years. That man is at the front of new technological frontiers. He's got a Queen's Award for industry plaque and all. Freddy announced proudly. Yeah, I know. I was there when you sold it to him, Percy muttered. Freddy waved a dismissive hand. Well, exactly. I mean, well, you and I, we both know it's a snide one, don't we? But the punters don't. They're impressed by the image. And that's what modern business is all about today, Percy. It's about image. The right appearance can fool the customer, right? Now, take me. For instance, I am a perfect example. But you look exactly what you are, Percy said without missing a beat. Freddy ignored him. It's the little things. Me aluminum briefcase there, me. Mercedes Kering, me file of facts. When people see these things, they know exactly what I am. Better than a mason's handshake. Prove you take my jewelry, you see. Now, a half-sovereign ring can say an awful lot about a bloke. Combined with a medallion, it speaks volumes. Freddy then used Grandad George as an example of bad image, much to George's annoyance. When I see him standing there, what this says to me, this says, here is a man who's worked hard all his life for an honest crust. Here is a man of strong principles. Here is a man you can trust. You see what I'm saying? You see how easy it is to fool people. All you've got to do is have the right image. Percy's response was predictable. Are you saying I've got to get an image? No. What I'm saying is you've got to get rid of one, Freddy declared. You. See, you take a look at me. I wear a trendy trench coat, Gordon Gekko braces. You wear a lumberjack's coat and Gordon Bennett boots. My image says I'm going right to the top, flat out. Your image says I'm going back to bed because I'm shagged out. You've got to learn to be dynamic, Percy. Freddy then revealed his big score, not just one, but 50 chronoscopes, bought for a mere 50 pounds each on the knock. Percy immediately suspected foul play. 50 quid each. Well, they've got to be hooky. They are not hooky, Freddy insisted. The reason why they're so cheap is that they come from a consignment where the manufacturers put in the wrong operating instructions. Percy stared at him. Oh, great. So how are you going to operate a video recorder with the instructions for a sandwich toaster? I'm not. You are. You're the one who's taken a diploma course in computer science. Again. So programming a silly little thing like that ought to be a dawdle for someone of your talents. Defeated, Percy agreed. Yes, all right, I'll do it for you. Good boy. Listen, I want you to record a program for me on a channel called City Beat. It's all about mega-powered business, Wall Street, big bangs, and all that. And talking about suits, I want you to wear yours today. Look really snappy for the punters. You know, with it, we've got a high-profile image. The only thing we've got that's high is his flat. Grandad George mumbled. Before Freddy could make his important private phone call, he directed Percy and George to take some crates of overripe tomatoes downstairs to the van. There you go. Clements, there's your stew. That's a pound. Clements Cabbage, a long-suffering friend of Freddy's and owner of Transworld. Express a courier service that mainly consisted of his single transit van. Handed over a coin. Cheers, Freddy, I'll get you on the way back. Bon appetit, Clemens. So, how's life treating you then? The same as Paxo treats a turkey, Clemens replied with a sigh. It's as bad. As that? Well, whatever happened to good news? Is it being privatized or? What? Yeah, I heard you started your own knowledge company, Transworld Express. Anytime, any load, anywhere. That's right, but I've only got a transit. A transit? So why all the big worldwide slogans? Clements rolled his eyes. Well, I wanted to call it the Grafton Greens Courier. Service, parcels, small boxes, that sort of thing. Then I bumped into Freddy. Oh, don't tell me. Image, yeah. Yes, he said there is no place in the modern business world for small thinkers. You have got to be big, brave, and brazen, he said. Why do you listen to him? I keep telling myself I shouldn't take no notice of him, but Freddy insists. Clements glanced towards the Golden Grog Pub. Is he still drinking here? By the way? Yeah, occasionally. But since the yuppies gentrified Grafton Greens, he's been hanging around the wine bars and bistros. Of course, one by one, they're barring. Them! As if on cue, Freddy swaggered into the Golden Grog. Clements, my old mate, I was just off, Freddy. No, not until I've bought you a drink. You're not. Pina colada for me, please. Arthur, save again for Clements. Freddy boomed to Arthur Alehouse, the pub. Landlord. Freddy then pitched some of his Jersey tomatoes to Arthur before inviting Clements to sit down and share his woes. Soon, Freddy spotted some other sort of people, Chloe and Adrian, whom he'd apparently debated mergers within a wine bar. Then Percy arrived, looking utterly mortified, his suit splattered with tomato. Juice! Cheers! Just look at me. I'm supposed to be going out in this tonight. Well, you've ruined it, haven't you? This is your fault. It's also I could present an image. Well, I am presenting an image. I'm presenting the image of someone. Who's covering tomato stains? Freddy, ever unsympathetic, merely told Arthur to get something to mop it up. How about a slice of bread? Percy seethed. I need him, don't I? I bloody need him. Percy ranted about canceling his date with Serafina, his ruined life, and how it was all Freddy's fault. Freddy simply told him to shut up and asked Clements to tell Percy about his recent run of bad luck, hoping it would cheer him up. No luck, me old mate, Percy asked Clements with genuine sympathy. Oh, no, Freddy, lots of luck, all bad, Clements corrected him. Last Friday was mine and Corinne's anniversary. Oh, my God. Freddy tried to sound concerned. No, Freddy, that's not the bad luck. Clements deadpanned. See, a while back, I got this contract with this plastics factory over in Dipford where they make garden furniture, camping equipment, toys, the lot. Well, Friday afternoon I got this urgent call from the factory to go to a shop in High Wycombe and pick up $50. They were being returned, faulty stock. But it's my anniversary, isn't it? And I promised to take Corinne out for the evening. By the time I have got through all the rush hour traffic, it's 6:30, and I've still got the dolls on board. So what do? Take them back to the factory like I'm supposed to and let Corinne down, or leave them on the truck until Monday and hope no one tweaks? Oh, well, it's obvious, isn't it? You let Corinne down, Freddy declared. No, how can a return of faulty dolls be urgent? I don't leave them on my truck until Monday. That's exactly what I did. And what happens? The factory went up in flames, exploded by all accounts. Normally, I can carry on working for them because they've got other depots. But tomorrow morning, I have got to hand in this unsigned docket, which proves I collected the dolls, but also proves that I didn't deliver them. When the governors find out, they are either going to think that I have become unreliable, or, worse still, that I am on the thief. Freddy's eyes lit up. That's a problem, isn't it, Clements? It's no problem. Are you going to be plonkers for the rest of your lives? This is no problem at all. This is a gift from the gods. He snatched the docket from Clemens. Give us this here now. What are you doing, doll? I'm getting you out of stock and into the money. All right, now listen. I've signed that docket, right? I put on Friday's date. Now, they never bother to check these things. As far as anyone's concerned, all them dolls went up in flames with the rest of the factory. Them dolls on the back of your truck no longer exist. This means that the owners will get more insurance money. You get an empty truck plus 100 quid. Me and the tomato kid here, we get 50 quid to flog down the market. And the great British public have another bargain of a lifetime. Everyone's a winner. Petty D Journey. All right, I'll now go and empty your van onto ours. Clemens, thank you very much. Clemens, somewhat dazed, could only nod. Soon, Freddy and Percy were back at the flat, surveying their new merchandise. 50 boxes of dolls. How much you pay for them? Percy asked. To quid each. So if we can knock them out of, what, say, 10 or a go, that's what, for 100 quid profit, eh? Lovely jubbly. You've just bought 50 dolls that have got something wrong with them. There's nothing wrong with those dolls, Percy. You know what these quality control geezers are like. You see one little scratch on them and they stamp them. Reject Like, what about them dolls you were selling at Christmas? There was. Nothing wrong with them dolls, was there? You laid them back, like in your arms. Like that, they'd close their little eyes and they looked exactly as if they was asleep. Yeah, we had to try and keep them closed, didn't we? 'Cause when you opened them, they was boss eyes. They had put the eyes in the wrong way round. I drank them. Percy retorted. Well, that's why they were such a bargain. Anyway, the kids didn't notice, did they? All except that little one who had nightmares. And I always said there was something wrong with her to start with. Anyway, these are probably top of the range. These are like Barbie or Cindy dolls or something like that. Freddy held up a doll, squinting at its packaging. Percy, these dolls ain't called Barbie or Cindy. These dolls are called Joyful Jill and Eager Evita. Percy's jaw dropped. You can't have dolls with names like that. You can if you go to the right shop, Freddy said with a wink, pulling out a Specialist Interest magazine from the box. Oh, geez, what have we got ourselves into here? Well, this is your fault, isn't it? You never stop to ask questions. Do you? You just go crashing in and to hell with the consequences. That is because I've got a high profile. Yeah, high profile and low forehead. Yeah, big for little dolls, don't they? Percy quipped, reading the magazine. No, mate, they ain't ordinary dolls. You get them advertised in these magazines for discerning gentlemen. Freddy looked at the magazine, then back at Percy. You're pulling my leg. Am I? He took the magazine and his eyes widened. He's right, Grandad. Look at all this lot in here. We've got more colors in here than jelly babies. Look, girl, I tell you, Freddy, we're gonna have to get rid of them a bit later. Yes, I know. You're right and all. Look at the prices they sell for. 60 pounds each. On the other hand, let's not be too now. Let's not be too hasty. Percy. Oi, come on. Freddy, you were the one that was having a go at me just now for making quick decisions, weren't you? Percy snatched the magazine. Freddy, we can't sell these. Percy, look at this. These things, they sell for 60 quid each, don't they? And these ones are self-inflating deluxe models for the more discerning. Weirdo, maybe they're specially made for bronchial perverts. Percy, if we could sell these for just, what? Say 30 quid each, that means that we'd make, what? 1,400 quid profit. Just think of that, Percy. 1,400 lovely smackaroonies split right down the middle between you and me. That means by this time tomorrow, you could have 600 quid of your own on your hip, and I know who'll buy them off us and all. Shady Sheldon. Who's Shady Sheldon? Well, he runs a little personal shop down the Woolworth Road and Heel. Take the lot off us. And what happens if Serafina finds out? Why? Does she want one? Freddy joked. She won't want to see me again, will she? Well, how's she gonna find out? You stand a fair chance of getting caught if you go walking around the streets in broad daylight with him. Well, we won't, will we? We'll go down there tonight with him. He's open till about 8 o'clock. Grandad George, who had been quietly observing, spoke up. Just get him out of here as quick as you can. I don't like the idea of sharing my home with these evil little things that bring nothing but bad luck. Now you know how me and Percy felt the day you moved in, Freddy retorted. Percy remained resistant, but Freddy, ever the persuader, painted it as a simple trading exercise, comparing it to MPs and vicars visiting Soho Vice dens. Yeah, but them sort of people are sick, Percy argued. Yes, I know, but they're still human beings. I mean, some weirdo wants to get it going with half a pound of latex and a lump of oxygen. Well, that's his business. As far as I'm concerned, he can have a meaningful relationship with a barrage balloon unless it's in the privacy of his own hangar. Freddy then declared he would call Shady Sheldon. Rodney, tell me the truth. You couldn't honestly go out and sell them horrible dolls, could you? To be honest with you, I know I couldn't, Percy admitted, but I know a man who can. Later that evening, as Percy pondered his ethical dilemma, the news crackled too. Life on the television. Police in South London have warned the public to be on the lookout for 50 life-size inflatable dolls that were acquired from a factory in Deptford over the weekend. A police spokesman today said that due to a technical error, the dolls have been loaded with gases, which include the highly explosive and volatile gas propane. The factory was burned to the ground on Saturday night, and experts suspect the fire may have been caused by the presence of propane. The acquisition came to light when security men noticed a forged signature on a delivery docket. Police have warned that the dolls are potentially lethal, particularly when exposed to heat, and have appealed for their immediate return. Percy's blood ran cold. He looked from the TV to the stack of boxes in the corner, then to Freddy, who was blissfully unaware, humming to himself. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, Percy yelled, rushing towards Freddy. That's the last time I trust you with anything. Freddy, look, I've already told you there's something wrong with that machine. I asked him to set this, too. Record a program on City Beat. And what have I got? Open University on BBC. 2. So instead of keeping my fingers on the ever-changing pulse of the stock market, I'm watching Christopher Dopey Wren on how he built St. Paul's Cathedral. I think it's interesting Granddad George mumbled. Yeah, you would. You were most probably around when he applied for planning. Permission, Percy retorted, his nerves frayed. He noticed the flat was getting unusually warm. It's creepy in here, isn't it? Is it all right if I turn the thermostat off? You sure it's not too technical for you? Freddy mocked. Oh, you dipstick, Percy. Now look what you've done. Me. I thought Percy knew about videos. Granddad George said. Yeah, a manual in Bangkok, and that's about it. Freddy sneered. I programmed that computer to record the program you wanted. Now, it's not my fault if it decided to record something else, is it? That machine is up the wall. Oh, you're trying to blind me with science now, aren't you? Personally, I think these computers are more trouble than they're worth. How did you figure that out? There was a film on earlier all about computers. You're joking. I wish I'd recorded it. Hang around, Percy. You most probably have. It was Cold War games. It was all about this soppy kid who messes around with computers. And one day, he broke into the computer that controls the American nuclear defense system. He almost got us into World War III. No chance of that happening with Percy, is there? World War III. This plonker can't even get us into Channel 3. The argument continued, with Percy revealing he hadn't read the chronoscope. Instructions, which were only in German, Spanish, French, and Italian. And that's why your machine don't work. It was made strictly for sale in Europe. But we are in Europe. We're in the common market, aren't we? Yes, I know that. But we've got a different electrical system to the rest of Europe, and that's why your machine is on the blink. Its components are burning out. It is what's technically known as knackered. I'm telling you, Willie, Nelson's tucked you up. Oh, I don't believe it. Well, that's all I need, isn't it? You won't be able to sell the others now, Freddy. Too late. I haven't got sold them all to start with. No, you've sold them. 60 quid each. I'll have to give the money back. Why? Because they don't work. Well, what do you expect for 60 quid? I mean, I've been fucked up. I'm just passing it on. That's all. It's business. Just then, a strange hissing sound filled the flat. What was that funny sound? Granddad George asked. I don't know. What you looking at me for? The most funny sounds in this flat tend to emanate from your vicinity, Percy accused. But I didn't do it. The hiss grew louder. What is that funny noise? I'll show you, shall I? Freddy exclaimed, then blew a raspberry. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream filled the air. Oh, God, what's happened? What's happened, Percy? How else should I know? You're the one with the GCEs. Just come alive, that's. What's happened? come alive. What do you think this is? Pinocchio. I've seen this happen before. Years ago, I was in Jamaica and I saw a voodoo ceremony this witch doctor ran. His hands over a dead cat and he'd come back alive. Granddad George rambled. Yeah, I wish he lived round here. He'd have a go at my video, Percy shouted, pointing at the chronoscopes. Suddenly, a massive, luridly colored figure began to inflate in the middle of the living room, pushing aside furniture, then another, then another. I don't understand it. I thought you were supposed to pull a string or press a button or something to inflate them, Percy exclaimed, horrified as joyful Jill. And eager Evita sprung to full, grotesque life. Maybe it needs to be your air duct. Well, that must have caused it. See, they must have a little canister of gas inside them, and he ain't set them off. Freddy cried, then rounded on Percy. What did you go and stick them next to the hot air duct for? Well, I didn't know that it would do that. Anyway, you're the one that switched the thermostat up. Well, I didn't know that it was going to do that either. He's an iron. Freddy shrieked. Look, all right, you too. Now, just pack it in for God's sake. Will you, what will our guests think? Look, they're ugly looking. Mares, aren't they? Granddad George muttered, looking at the rapidly expanding figures. Seen you a bit worse, Percy snapped. Percy, you're going to cop an unfortunate one in a minute. Listen, we can't stand here arguing. We've got to do something before the rest of the black and white minstrels pop up, Freddy yelled, referring to the expanding forms filling his flat. All right, don't panic. We'll just deflate them. How? Well, they must have a little valve in them somewhere, right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, go on. Where are you going in, Percy? Could be anywhere. And I ain't looking for it either. Could be illegal. What are you talking about? Illegal. They can't phone for the police, can they? Hey, all right. Do it yourself. Little boy, Freddy spotted a valve. There it is. Look, right in the back there. Now, just, do you want me to? Stick go on, Percy. Have a go at that one. Here, I'll use one of these cocktail sticks. Here, look. Does Serafina let you do that? Percy carefully poked the valve. Nothing happened. Something's happening. Yeah. Same here. Freddy tried his. Maybe they're dodgy valves we used to get it on the rubber dinghies in the Navy. Oh, yeah. How can you tell? Well, once they're up, they won't come down. Well, you remember what Clemens said. They were faulty, weren't they? He was. Taking them back to the factory. It must be the valves that are faulty. Well, How are we going to let them down? Can't you stick pins in them? Percy cried. You're back to your voodoo again, aren't you? Of course we can't. We've got 60 quid in profit tied up in these two. Freddy screeched. Oh, look, what's 60 notes, eh? Come on, let's just burst them. Percy grabbed a pen. Percy, don't you dare do that. Give me that here. God, dear, your mother would turn somersaults in her grave if she could see you doing that. She did not. Bring us up to throw good money away just because we got a little problem. We'll find a way in which we can get them down to Shady Sheldon's. And how are you going to explain the fact that they are fully inflated? I'll just say they're samples. I'll say we blew them up so he could see them in all their natural beauty. Yeah, we'll chuck them in the back of the van. They'll be out of sight then. How are you going to get them out of this flat? Down the stairs, through the main doors, right across the forecourt to where the van's parked without anyone seeing you? You always have to spoil everything, don't you? Percy despaired. He's got a point, though, hasn't he? I mean, there's thousands of people on this estate. Someone's bound to see you. Grandad George pointed out. Yeah, all right. Well, I'll think of a way. Listen, the first thing we've got to do is to get these into another room. I mean, if that bloke from the council turns up, talks to us about buying this flat, I mean, God knows what. He'll say if he sees these plump Polly and voluptuous Vicky here. Albert, put these in Percy's room. What? No way. I've already got a wardrobe full of Mum's old clothes in my room. Them two are just about to take the biscuit. In that case, I'll bring Serafina back. Put them in your room. No, in case I bring a bird back, put them in Grandad George's room. In case I bring a all right, put them in my room. I've got to go and meet Serafina. I'll see you later, Percy declared, heading for the door. Oi, Percy, just make sure you don't do anything that might cause embarrassment to our family. Freddy, I don't think I could do anything that would cause embarrassment to our family, Percy called back. Freddy smiled. Good boy. Mum would be proud of you. Mum, that's it. Percy, I think I've just worked out a way of how we can get these down to Shady Sheldon's. He started cackling maniacally. Meanwhile, at the Golden Grog, Sidney Scrounger was having a bad day. These tomatoes are a bit manky, aren't they, mate? He complained to Arthur Alehouse, referring to the produce Freddy had sold. Still, they'll make your beard taste better. Arthur sighed. I'll have you know, they were fresh Jersey tomatoes. Yeah, when Sidney muttered. Clemens Cabbage walked in, his face drawn. Why do you come in, Sidney? Arthur asked. For the company. Sidney doesn't have many friends or opportunities for social outlet. Every weekend, he goes down to the park and throws bread to the ducks. To him, it's a dinner party, so during the week, he has a straight choice between sitting in a cemetery or sitting in this pub. Unfortunately, the cemetery closes at 6. What is the matter with everyone today? Sidney's done nothing but moan. You've got a face like a constipated rat, Arthur said to Clemens. At least when Freddy boy comes in, he cracks a joke and has a laugh. It is due to the activities of the aforementioned Freddy boy that I have a face like a constipated rat, Clemens stated. Derek popped in to see me this afternoon. How is he? A lot richer than before he popped in to see me this afternoon. He sold me some video recorders, 70 pounds each. I snapped them up, 70 knicker each. What? They fall off the back of a lorry? Sidney asked. If they did, they were going round a bend in Dusseldorf. I have just discovered that these machines only work on the continental current. To make them work on, the British system would take a transformer the size of a suitcase and an electrician of such genius, I'd have to go head hunting at Cape Canaveral. Arthur despaired. 70 knicker each. Those video recorders. 70 knicker each. Yeah, I'll have one, Sidney said, ever oblivious. No, Sidney. See, they only work on the continental. All right, I'll drop one round. Sidney finished his drink and left. Arthur then heard Clemens's phone ring. Bloody hell, I've got to do something. Really quick, is your phone working? Is the phone working? Look, we had a spotter bothered the other week. They told her, why is that? Well, what's all the panic? I sold Freddy some dolls. Inflatable dolls. Inflatable dolls. Arthur's eyes widened. Yeah, well, he didn't know they were inflatable. I never knew they were inflatable. I picked them up from a place called Playthings. I thought it was a toy shop. Well, apparently the police are looking for them. They're dangerous. They've been fitted with the wrong gas cylinders. They're full of something called propane. Propane. Yeah, that's explosive, isn't it? Very. Arthur's face went pale. Freddy's got 50 little time bombs on his hands. If them things get hot, they are going to have to redo the Atoozy. I'll pop round his flat. I'll see you later. Back at Nelson Mandela House, Freddy and Granddad George were engaged in the most absurd endeavor of their lives. Freddy's ingenious plan for moving the inflated dolls, dressed them in Granddad George's and some of their late mothers' clothes and walk them out, hoping they'd pass for unusually tall, silent women. Hurry up then, it's all clear. Come on, Freddy hissed, wrestling a doll. Draped in a floral dress towards the door, Granddad George, looking like little Red Riding Hood in a cloak was struggling with another. Oh, what a very pleasant evening. I killed you, George mumbled, clearly losing his grip on reality. Get the van, George, Freddy barked. Are you all right? As long as we don't draw attention to ourselves. HMM, you. All right, hurry up, George. It's locked. God blimey, have you got the keys, Percy? Percy, who had been tasked with moving the van closer, pulled up, staring at the bizarre tableau. Hank, drive the van back over here, Freddy shouted, using Percy's alias when they were up to no good. But I'm not insured. Well, don't have a crash then. What if the police patrol sees us? It's all right, these dolls ain't hooky. I'm thinking more of the public. Indecency charge. How are you going to explain this in court? I should tell the truth, Percy. I should say, yes, Your Honor, the other evening my brother and I decided to go out for a drink with 2 life-size inflatable dolls, which were wearing my late mother's clothing. Can't put you in prison for that, Percy. Can I? They'll chuck us in Broadmoor, Percy groaned. Just then, Arthur Alehouse appeared, running towards them, his face a mask of panic. Mike, hang on. I've only got 1 pair of hands. Have you seen Freddy boy? No, he ain't been in tonight. Bloody hell, I've got to do something really quick. What's all the panic? I sold Freddy some dolls. Inflatable dolls. Yeah, well, he didn't know they were inflatable. I never knew they were inflatable. I picked them up from a place called Playthings. I thought it was a toy shop. Well, apparently the police are looking for them. They're dangerous. They've been fitted with the wrong gas cylinders. They're full of something called propane. Propane. Yeah, that's explosive, isn't it? Very. Freddy's got 50 little time bombs on his hands. If them things get hot, they are going to have to redo the Atoozy. I'll pop round his flat. I'll see you later. Arthur then spotted the 2 figures dressed in women's clothes, wobbling precariously with Freddy and George. That's bad news, isn't it? He muttered, before running off, presumably to alert the authorities. Freddy and George managed to bundle the dolls into the back of the van amidst Percy's continued protests. Trust me, have I ever put you wrong before? Freddy asked. You are a liar, Percy. Seraphina, that hurts me. I have never told an untruth. In my life, I happen to come from an extremely honest family, Percy exclaimed, still reeling from a recent argument with Seraphina where he'd lied about living in a mansion instead of Nelson Mandela House. As they drove, the van began to shake. I thought you said you heard a sussing sound, Percy said. I did. I was making a funny noise like something was going to happen. The only thing that's happened so far is poor old Mum's clothing's got all dirty. I shall have to take it all down to dry cleaners now, George replied. Suddenly, a loud whoosh and a blinding flash erupted from the back of the van. The vehicle bucked violently, then swerved, almost hitting a lamppost. Freddy slammed on the brakes. They piled out, eyes wide, to see the back of the van a smoking, charred mess. The dolls were gone, obliterated. Bill, them dolls are dangerous. They've been on the news everywhere. Percy stammered. How do you know it was them dolls that they was talking about? Freddy asked, still in denial. I know. Right, I just know. Well, the only thing that I know is I've got 60 quid laying out over there. Freddy gestured to the inferno. We're hanging about here like a couple of spare ones at a wedding. Oh, come on. I've had enough of this. Come on. A moment later, sirens wailed in the distance. See, told him not to have the mutton vindaloo, George commented. That could have happened anywhere. George, we only just got rid of them in time. We was well lucky, Freddy insisted. No, it's not luck, Percy. It's Mum. She's up there somewhere, watching over. U.S. Percy stared at the smoldering remains of the van, then at his uncle. Oh, yeah, it's the old April going, is it? A few weeks later, the smell of burnt plastic had finally faded from there. Memories replaced by the lingering aroma of disappointment. Freddy, ever resilient, was already plotting his next big score. Percy was still trying to mend things with Serafina, who was attending a training course in Guernsey. At the Golden Grog, Freddy was regaling Sidney Scrounger with tales of his business acumen while surreptitiously playing cards. I heard your firm was broke, Freddy. You know me, Sidney. I'm a businessman. I've always got a little bit pugged. Away for emergency. Anyway, who told you that we was broke? Arthur, you don't take any notes of him. He's only my financial advisor. What does he know? Freddy declared, sweeping up his winnings from Sidney's meager hand. His attention quickly shifted to a new face at the bar. Don't look now, but is. He the bloke at the bar with a bow tie. That's Maximilian. Who? Maximilian Moneybags. Don't know much about him. He only moved to the area a few weeks ago. Seems a nice bloke, though. He's a retired jewelry dealer, isn't he? Yeah, that's what he told me. He's retired early, though, isn't he? Perhaps he made enough. Freddy, why? You lining something up then? Freddy gave Sidney a knowing wink. Well, it's just that I've been, you know, having a few drinks and chats with him over the last couple of weeks, and he let slip that even though he's retired, he still likes to do a bit of private business, you know, cash and confidentiality, just enough to keep the old tax. Man at bay, so I thought I might give him a shove, see what I can pick. Up, Maximilian Moneybags, a distinguished-looking man with an expensive suit and a slightly too smooth smile, soon approached. How's it going, Freddy? I've only been about 5 minutes. Freddy, ever the smooth operator, pretended not to have noticed him. Oh, hello. Maximilian,